Right, Ao Edesina is a computer programmer from Hackney in London, and you might recognise him from the TV show Hunted. Hello.
Hi.
You won it, didn't you?
Champion.
Yes.
Yeah.
My kids love that programme. He voted to leave, but has since changed his mind and is now campaigning for Remain. John James is a racehorse breeder and a Conservative member from Ely in Cambridgeshire who voted for the Brexit Party in the European elections and says the judges are biased. Hello to you, good morning. Journalism student Finvola Dunphy is a Labour member from Liverpool who's delighted with the Supreme Court ruling. And furniture manufacturer Rachel Waring is a Conservative Party member from Norfolk who thinks the general election is the only way to solve this stalemate. Welcome, thank you so much for coming on the programme. OK, I want you to reflect on the last 24 hours and how you're feeling about it as a voter.
Me personally, I'm quite relieved that the judges have come to this decision.
Why?
Simply because I think that if they didn't come to this decision, it would mean that a future Prime Minister could basically shut down Parliament for as long as he wants.
John James, how do you respond to that?
Very frustrated. Democracy is democracy and it's just been demolished by members of Parliament.
What about the ruling of the judges?
I don't think it should have gone to the judges in the first place. There's parliamentary law and common law.
But as it did, what do you make of the ruling?
Not very happy about it. As I said, I think there's 9 judges who were Remainers and ECJ judges as well. So,
are you suggesting they weren't independent?
You have to think.
No, seriously,
there's a question. Well, I honestly, I mean, if you went to court and you had to have a jury, you could say, look, I don't want him on the jury because I know him for some reason, or he's a Labour man and he doesn't like Conservatives. You could wean out, so you get 12 fair-minded people on the jury. Boris Johnson.
And if the ruling had gone the other way, would you be today questioning the independence of those judges?
Probably not.
And when the High Court ruled that, you know, they ruled with the government, was you saying that they were, you know, not independent? You saying that they were influenced, or
I'd be dubious.
But I think that our judiciary is actually one of the most independent, you know, judiciaries in the whole world.
Yes.
And I think, like, to start saying that they're basically somehow, you know, taking one side or the other because of their own political views is actually a very dangerous thing. I think it's very dangerous for us to be going down that route. And I think even, you know, government ministers that are even insinuating the fact that the judges are not independent, I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I think this notion that Farage and Jacob Rees-Mogg are coming out with, that this is some sort of political coup, I think it's utterly absurd.
Well, they were also criticised by their own Conservative colleagues a little earlier in the programme for that language.
But I mean, look, if we start questioning the integrity of the Supreme Justices in this country, there were 11 Supreme Justices. They are an independent body who are there to sort of hold people to account, hold politicians to account, just like the media. And I think before Farage and Jacob Rees-Mogg start questioning their integrity, I think they need to look at their own. That's my view.
By the way, who told you that 9 of those judges will Remain?
Well, I read it in the press. Now, do you believe everything you read in the press?
Me?
I don't know. I'm just saying.
I don't.
You know, no.
I don't think it matters if they're Remainers or Leavers. I think that actually doesn't make any difference. At the end of the day, everybody standing here knows why Boris Johnson prorogued Parliament. It was because of Brexit. That was the reason. We know, the public know, MPs know, and for people to basically, you know, stand up and defend Boris Johnson, I think we've got to a really, you know, disgusting situation with this country where basically the Prime Minister can lie, can basically mislead Parliament, can drag the Queen into doing something that's essentially unlawful, and we all just sit there and just say, throw our hands up in the air and just say it's Boris. I personally think that he should resign.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's unforgivable.
Let's ask a Conservative Party member, Rachel Waring. Do you want to see Boris Johnson resign?
No, I don't want to see him resign. I don't think he dragged the Queen to doing anything. I think that this is the first time this question has been brought to court. Lots of Prime Ministers have done prorogation in the past, and this is the first time the question has been asked. We have to respect the Supreme Court judges, and I totally do. But you have to recognise that previous Prime Ministers who've behaved in exactly the same way have not been litigated against in the court. So I think that's something everybody has to bear in mind. But we have to respect the judges, the ruling. I'm confident Boris Johnson will. And we're at a stalemate, and I want to speak for people like me business people specifically, SME operators who, let's face it, bring more than 50% of what comes into the Treasury every year. Our voice is not heard, and it is damaging.
Well, maybe it's not heard because
delay.
your Prime Minister said F business.
Exactly.
Well, what business was he talking about? He was talking about the business that the CBI represent. That is not SMEs. So yes, all of the international businesses that do not pay their taxes into this country, I can understand why Boris Johnson gets so frustrated that their voice is the voice that is continually heard. It is our kind of businesses that pay the most into our economy.
So
our voice is not heard, and it needs to be heard because we are the ones that contribute more than anybody else. No taxes offshore.
No, we're grateful that you're on our programme making these points, Rachel. I want to ask you, what do you want then Boris Johnson to do? What's damaging your business
I think
now?
The thing that's damaging, we have credit score ratings that are being reduced because companies, Dun & Bradstreet, whichever other one providers, they are all downgrading our risk factor because of supposed no-deal theoretical concerns. These are not facts. These are theories, and I know they have to base things on this, but when we're competing, I'm participating in an international tender at the moment, and I have to have my company competing against other companies from around the world, and we are affected by this continual delay. We have to bring it to a close. It has to happen. I'm confident that Boris Johnson and his team are trying harder than anybody else to date to try and make it happen. I accept.
Do you want a deal?
I would like a deal, but I am quite prepared for no deal.
Right.
There is nothing in that yellow hammer paper at all that is scary.
Well,
People don't like change.
I was voting for leave.
Hang on a minute. I'm just sorry. I'm so sorry.
People don't like change, and this is what this is all about.
I think if you relied on particular medicines, you might find some of that yellow hammer document worrying.
I do not believe that you can't get the medicines in. Okay, you can.
Okay.
You can get medicines in advance so that you've got extra in stock. What do you think business are doing with their stock?
Matt is the health secretary, right? So he
Yes.
controls health as far as I know. And what people have actually asked him is, why can't he stand up and say no one will die as a result of a no-deal Brexit? He cannot stand up and say that. My daughter is epileptic, okay? Yes. At one point she was having 30 fits a day, okay? Now if she was suddenly, if her medication was cut for whatever reason, she could be in very big trouble. She's a 5-year-old child. Can Matt Hancock come and tell me directly and say they will be 100% cast stone guarantee your daughter's supplies will not be.
100% kills germs on their spray.
So essentially, you're admitting. So essentially, you're admitting that there is a possibility, however small, that I will not, that my daughter will not be able to get her medication due to Brexit. Why can't he say due to Brexit everyone will get their medication?
I had to get a brand new design of chair produced in 48 hours in China and air freighted in.
We're talking about life-saving medication that will. We're talking about life-saving.
That's designing and producing. All he's talking about is shipment. The shipment is the easy bit.
Why can't he stand up and say that?
I want to ask about the Labour Party.
Why can't he say that?
I want to ask about the Labour Party. Hang on a minute. Are you disappointed that the Labour Party is not going to be calling for a vote of no confidence in Jeremy Corbyn for the foreseeable? Sorry, not in Jeremy Corbyn, I beg your pardon, in Boris Johnson for the foreseeable.
No, I'm not disappointed. I think they know what they're doing. I think
what do you think they are doing?
Well, I think they're going to wait until the 31st of October to see if we can get an extension, to see if we can stop the possibility of a no deal going ahead, which will be the worst case scenario for certainly people in the north of this country who feel completely isolated and completely sort of rejected by this Westminster-centric government. I can tell you the people of Liverpool are absolutely disheartened. They are outraged at the Prime Minister's response to that judicial decision that was made yesterday.
Well, he said he didn't agree with it, but he would abide by it. What's his outrage?
He's not going to apologise. There's no plans of resignation, and he wants to there's talks of him wanting to prorogue again, which again, I mean, how many times is he going to try and evade and run away from scrutiny and accountability?
Okay, what do you want Boris Johnson to do now, Mr. James?
I'd like to leave on the 31st. I'm not worried about a no deal, but at the end of the day, if he has to go back and say, look, swallow humble pie, as it were, and ask for an extension for a month, have a general election. People then will know what they're voting for. If you're going to vote Conservative, you know that we're going to leave, whatever. And if you vote Lib Dem, you know you're not going to get opportunity. You're just going to stay, and that is it. If you vote for Labour, you don't know whether you're in or out.
This is
Now,
complete
my family background is from Merseyside, and I spoke to my family last night. Every one of them said the same thing. We're sick and fed up. We just want to leave, get it done, and let the country get back on.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there. I'm going to pause it there.
If we're going to leave, why don't we have a second referendum? Because at the end of the day, if we say
we
we're
haven't
going
got time to go over the second referendum.
yeah, but if we're going to say we're going to vote for a general election will solve nothing. What if we end up with a hung parliament?
Well,
people will be saying that we voted for this, we voted for that. Now, if we have a second referendum with
no
an
different from the
actual,
first.
no, of course it will be, because the leave option will be defined and will be exactly what it is. If the country still want to leave, they can vote for it. I'm not saying we should stop, so then they can vote for it. You should be back in the second referendum if that's what you believe, because at the end of the day,
My country is a democratic country, and
Well,
I
if
am
you-
very proud of my country.
you cannot undermine democracy with
When
more
I have
democracy.
seen previous countries have to have their referendum rerun, I thought that was appalling
This is not a
historically.
rerun.
And now I am watching my country contemplating a second referendum. It is embarrassing.
Okay.
It is not what I thought my country was.
This is
That's
not a
enough.
rerun
That's
of
enough.
a referendum.
Ladies and gents, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for conversing with each other. Really appreciate it. Thank you.